What's up guys, it's Erratic here, and in today's video I want to go over resources that you can use to get better at PvP. I think a lot of times when you are looking to increase your rating and your skill, you kind of just think it's all about learning your rotation and trying to find out how to best play your class, but you're probably not using all of the resources that are out there, and a lot of these might be resources that you don't know about. And so I just wanted to make kind of a comprehensive list of all of the different resources I use, and even some that I don't use that I could be using maybe to help me get even better. I'm gonna try to keep this kind of short and sweet, but the first four or five are gonna be just websites I use. The first one is gonna be murloc.io, and I'm gonna leave a link to all of these websites down in the description. But this is probably my favorite website for getting general information on my class, what talents I need to run, what gear I need to be running, that kind of thing. And the reason I like this is over here on the left you can see all the classes, you can select your class, you can select your spec, and then what this does is this pulls the information of the top 50 of that spec and gives you information based on that. So it's going to show you the top 5 players in your respective spec, and then over here you can select whether it's solo shuffle, 2v2, blitz, RBG, and even mythic plus. I've never tried it for mythic plus, but maybe it's good for that too. But yeah, so maybe I'm running solo shuffle and I want to know what talents I need to be running. I could pick the top preservation evoker here, and obviously looking at the top person is always a good starting point, and some people will just pull that information. But what I like about murloc.io is since you have the top 50 players, if I go down here to the class talents, it's going to show me all of the talents that people take kind of like in general. So you can see that there's some talents here that are absolutely mandatory. These ones that are 50 means 50 out of the top 50 are using it. If it's got a 4 by it, it means that there's 4 evokers in the top 50 that are using this talent. And the reason I like this is because if you're just looking at the top evoker, it's looking at their spec the last time they logged off. And sometimes you will change up your spec based on a specific comp that you're fighting. But this kind of shows you a more generalized specialization and maybe displays some talents that you need to be looking at switching based on the comp. So for example, for preservation evoker here, on more melee lobbies, I would take the magic damage increased. But if it's a caster heavy lobbies, maybe I'm taking the damage reduction for magic. Same thing here, maybe I need to be taking this talent occasionally because 9 people are using it. Very good resource for that reason. And it does that for all of the different things you can look at, all the talents, PvP talents. You can see the most used ones and then the ones that are used less often. But again, it just gives you an idea of maybe where you need to be switching these talents around. And then the same thing for BIS gear. This is a really useful one, especially when it comes to embellishments. You can look specifically at embellishments, and it tells you what most people are running. For preservation evoker, pretty much everyone is just running 2 of these rings, but you can see some of the one-offs here. Same thing for enchantments. I know I'm kind of beating a dead bush, but you can see where some people are running, half of people are running Curse Mastery, but there's actually a good amount running the haste as well. So you could do that as well. And then this is another one I always find interesting when I look at evokers, is there's a pretty big split on what enchant we have on our weapon. So yeah, murloc.io is probably the one I use the most when I want just general information on a spec. And again, that's good for all of the different rated game modes. You can see RBG specs and stuff like that too. The next one I would like to take a look at is Drustvar. When I just want a build and I want to see easily all in one place talents and enchants and stuff like that, I think Drustvar has a lot better viewing experience when it comes to that. You can easily see all the talents here and they make sense with how they're displayed. You can copy the talent code very easily right there. I think murloc.io is a little bit more difficult to view in that regard. I also really like this screen right here that shows the enchants. So you can just have this pulled up on a second screen, go through it and buy the stuff on the auction house, see what gems are running and stuff like that. It tells you what gem they have and what stats it gives. I don't think there's another website out there that tells you that information so easily. Drustvar also has really good stats. So if you wanted to look at I don't look at this too often, but you can kind of see how the flavor of the month is changing up. You can see, the leaderboards. Pretty much all these PvP websites have the same thing where you can see who's the highest rated, that kind of thing. I'm trying to think of what else I look at here. You can see representation, so you can kind of see like where you're at in the ladder. Like if you're playing at 2100, what specs are more popular in that range. I think it gives you kind of a general good idea of what is good at that rating. You know, not always the best information to base your like what you're playing on, but yeah, just a lot of good stats here. I'm not the best person to probably explain this stuff, but sometimes when I'm just wondering some certain information, if you ever have like a stat question, Drustvar is a good place to go to maybe see if you can find that information. The next one I would suggest is check PvP. I think probably everybody knows about this, but you can obviously, this is honestly the one I go to more often, just for like ranking. I think it's the easiest to access in regards to that. You select ranking, you know, you can select whether this is going to show you the 2s, 3s. You can sort it by 2s or 3s, RBG, and then there's this whole solo shuffle section that's different. You can select the spec while you've got the rankings pulled up. You can see the top like for that spec. So like for example, I can pull up the top Preservation Evoker pretty easily. Again, we can see what he's running, see all of his stats. I think most people use this when they're checking out other players, maybe in the LFG. I would suggest like maybe don't give all of the credibility to people's check PvP when you're looking in groups. Like, don't be so biased. But the one thing I want to really suggest in the check PvP website that I didn't know about until recently is this LFG, and it says new here, so maybe I wasn't missing out. Maybe it's something that is like pretty new, but you can list all of your characters here that you're looking for group for 3s on. So let me like create a new character, so I can press continue here. So I've got my account linked, but I can press continue here. Say I'm looking for restoration, I'm looking to push rating. I can say for 3v3s only, and then you can put a note, and then I think you just got to go somewhere down and save, or maybe it automatically saves as you go. I don't know. I'm going to delete it because I'm not really playing my Resto Shaman right now, but I've actually gotten a ton of whispers. I don't want to pull this up to like flame, or not flame anyone, but like to out anyone for messaging me. But this actually seems like a pretty good tool for finding 3s partners. 2s partners probably too, BG Blitz, maybe if you're trying to look for a duo. I can't say how effective this tool is as a DPS, but as a healer, I've gotten quite a few messages from, you know, decently skilled people who want to queue, and I've queued with a couple of them. But if you're just looking for 3s partners, I would definitely say list your characters out here and just see what happens. As a DPS, you're probably gonna have to be more proactive. I haven't here, you can search. So yeah, I guess you can search for people who want to play. I would really like to play Rogue Boomy. It's weird, there's 0 outlaws that are listed, but maybe I want to play Rogue Boomy, and so I can just come down here and see everybody that's trying to queue Rogue Boomy. That would actually be really cool to know. So I could like, I guess, message him probably. I don't know how that works. You can start a chat over here and say like, hey, I'd like to queue Rogue Boomy. This guy's probably looking for like maybe rank 1. Does have multiple Boomies across NA and EU. If people are interested in pushing for a rank 1 attempt, I have a Prez buddy been queuing with for the past 10 years. So I mean, that's, you know, just good information. This is honestly one of the most go-to tools I've seen on any of these websites. So I would definitely suggest checking that out. The next website we're going to look at is Seramate. I think there's like in the PvP community, there's like some pretty big discourse about whether like Seramate or check PvP or Drustvar is better. I think there's drama between, you know, the 3 website creators. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I shouldn't even probably bring that up. But this is just another website. I don't use this one, but from what I've heard, this has more accurate rank 1 title cutoffs, and I think you can kind of just find all of the same information that you can find on these other websites. But I couldn't tell you too much about this site because I don't use it very much. But that is another option. The last website I want to suggest, and here's the thing, I am not sponsored by this website at all. It is one that I've used since Shadowlands, off and on. I've subscribed and I've used it unsubscribed at some points, but it's skill capped. And it's kind of funny because I feel like among the higher rated players, there's a lot of hate towards skill capped, but I think skill capped is actually a fantastic tool, especially for people who are more beginners at PvP, you know, just getting into PvP. Maybe you're 1800, maybe you're under 2100. I think there's a lot of good information on this website. They have general courses that kind of go over the fundamentals of arenas. Then they've got specific courses for specs. I know anytime that I'm trying to get into a new spec in arena, whether it's DPS or healer, this is where I will go first. Obviously there's YouTube content creators out there, and we'll talk about that here in a minute, that just release their full guides, but I think they do a very good job of breaking down specs into specific sections that makes it a lot more digestible. The other thing about skill capped, and I can't really show it to you while I'm here, maybe I'll pull up like a VOD and I'll just kind of show you the UI, but they've got a great UI package, and there's also a YouTube video for setting up that UI package. It's a skill capped add-on. I'm not going to explain how to use it, but I'll leave a link down to their video on how to set this up. But if you hate setting up add-ons as much as I do, and I hate setting up add-ons, this is the perfect add-on to get you into arenas, just kind of out of the box. It can be kind of an information overload if you're brand new to arenas, but it basically gives you everything you need to succeed in arenas. I use their add-on package with a couple modifications and maybe a couple additional add-ons outside of their package, but this is a great add-on to use. And there's a free version, and then there's a paid version that you have to be subscribed to their service to get the full version. That just adds a couple things, but honestly their free version is fantastic right out of the box as well. I could not suggest skill capped enough for people who are more beginners to the video. That being said, there's also a part of the subscription, I think, where they will do VOD reviews. I haven't ever used it, but some of my most insightful learning has been from VOD reviews from other players, so I would imagine that part of the subscription is very worth it as well. The next website, I would say, and this is, I guess, a website, is finding a Twitch streamer or streamer anywhere who is really good at your spec that you can go in. Hopefully they are interactive with chatters that you can go and talk to, ask about questions, and hopefully they maybe put out guides on YouTube as well. So this is kind of like a YouTube Twitch as well. But obviously if you can have a live chat with somebody who's good at your spec so you can ask specific questions. Also, I would say put it out there, maybe ask if the streamer will do VOD reviews. I think VOD reviews are probably one of the most efficient ways to get better at the game, because when you're playing trying to get better and you just don't know what you don't know, having someone who is more experienced look at your gameplay and be able to point out specific things that maybe you didn't know you were doing wrong can be huge. I mean, I've even at 2400, I've had really good preservation evokers look at my gameplay and immediately point stuff out, and I'm like, oh my god, that makes so much sense. But like it's hard to make those changes when you don't know what you're doing wrong. I will say, don't go into streamers chats expecting, acting like they owe you or owing you answers to your questions or VOD reviews. That's a very good way to kind of leave a salty taste in people's mouths. But I think most streamers are doing it because they enjoy the interaction with their community, and a lot of them want to help if they have the time. It all depends on the streamer, but yeah, I think a lot of content creators enjoy those kind of interactions. We kind of already talked about YouTube, but kind of the same thing. Go look for YouTube guides on your class. Go look for YouTube videos, maybe of gameplay of the spec you're playing, of the comp you're playing. That can be super helpful to watch. And then this is actually a super crazy one, but Twitter is actually kind of a great resource for building connections that you can use to find partners for arenas. This is not something I started doing until this season, but I've actually found quite a few people to play with just from interacting with people on Twitter and, kind of posting my journey, posting my progress. I don't think you have to be, like a content creator to get benefits from this. I feel like I've met and talked and queued with people that just are on WoW PvP Twitter. I can't really tell you the best way to get into it, but really you just need to obviously have a Twitter account, following some of the higher PvP people, and just, making sure you're following anyone new that you see talking about PvP. It's not something I would have expected, but a really great resource for finding partners. Obviously, that's the most difficult thing about WoW arenas right now. LFG seems dead, and it seems like there's actually much better ways to find partners out of the game than in game. And then the last thing I'd like to suggest is finding a Discord server with like-minded players, people who play your spec. I know a lot of classes and specs have like their official Discord servers. I don't even know if there's one for Evoker. I actually just asked that question on Twitter. So if I get an answer, maybe I'll leave that link down in the description. But I know when I was a warrior, there was like the Skyhold Discord server, and it was mostly, you know, PvE questions and answers, but they also had a PvP section. I know a lot of the big names for each spec have Discord servers where, you know, like let's say it's a warrior. They have a lot of warriors join that server because they're always watching them on Twitch streams. So you can go into those kind of Discords, ask questions, and a lot of times get answers because there's so many like-minded players in those Discord servers. And that kind of completes my list of what I use and things maybe I don't use but I think are useful. If there's any other resources that you can think of, feel free to leave them down in the comments, and make sure you put a like on this video and subscribe to the channel if you like the content. I will see you guys in the arenas.